Hello and welcome back to the Naked Expat channel. It took me nearly 30 years of international travel, business and learning for what I'm about to tell you. And honestly, that time felt like 1,000 years whilst I was living through it. Frequent mistakes, going around in circles, and in my early years, watching other people succeed whilst I was stuck in the same patterns, making the same mistakes, like as if I was cursed to repeat them forever. Sure, if I had a time machine, I'd go back and change some things. But if I only had less than an hour to tell myself something, these are the things that I would say. Nothing else matters, no fluff, no theory, just the rules that actually worked for me. The rules that took me from being broke, confused and stuck in relative poverty to achieving financial, time and location independence. In the next few minutes, you're going to get 7 rules, one example each and one takeaway from each rule that you can apply today. Steal them, apply them and maybe skip some of the pain that I went through. I'm going to share parts of my own personal story in this content, so let's jump into it right now. First of all, you've got to solve the money problem first, then solve everything else afterwards. Money doesn't fix every problem, but it speeds up fixing any problem that you could possibly have. Think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs for a second. At the bottom, you have food, water, shelter, the basic stuff. And money takes care of all of that immediately. The next level up, you have safety, employment, health, resources, and money handles that as well. The next level up again is love, belonging, friendship, and family connection. Now, money doesn't directly give you those. But here's the thing, when you don't have money, you're obsessed with money. You're stressed, you're working extra hours, you're counting the pennies or the cents, and you don't have time for friendships or building real connections. But when you have money, you stop thinking about money and you can trade money for time. Because of the fact that you have money, you don't have to work as much and you don't have to do things that you don't want to do. So you end up having more energy and you can actually have more time with your family and your friends and your loved ones. Then the next level up again is self-esteem, respect, status, strengths and freedom. When you solve the money problem, unless you're a trust fund baby, that means at some point you must have given massive value somewhere. So you likely become very good at something. And that builds real confidence, not fake ego, real confidence, because you know that you've earned it. And at the very top is self-actualization, finding your purpose. And honestly, good luck with that if you're broke. You need money first. In order to achieve this, don't chase women, don't chase fun, and don't chase distractions. Chase excellence. Money first equals options first. Now, I came from a relatively modest background, and at one point, I lived in my friend's bedsit. When I would take a shower in his bathroom, the water would actually run into the kitchen. Plus, it was a really tiny place and it was freezing cold in the winter and boiling hot when it was sunny. Mind you, it wasn't sunny that often in the UK, that didn't happen very often. And when I worked in a 4-star city centre hotel, seeing all of these rich guys flashing their cash on expensive dinners and nice wine, I wanted that kind of financial freedom and peace of mind for myself. Back then, there weren't nearly as many resources as there are now, what with the internet, to make good choices on how to actually escape a poorer lifestyle. So I did what society told me to do at the time, and I went to night school and studied finance. That was my choice. I didn't learn via a highbrow college in the UK, or what you folks in the US would refer to as like Ivy League. So even though I was qualified, plenty of finance jobs still had their doors firmly closed, mainly because of my strong West Country accent, being more common driving tractors than market trends. Still, with a few breaks and a bit of self-made luck, I did secure my first finance position, although it was self-employed, so if I didn't make any money, I didn't eat. The job eventually gave me stability, and it enabled me to launch my own business after a few years, prior to my early retirement. My business gave me financial, location, and time freedom. With that being said, if I had a time machine and could like start all over again, what I probably would have done is started in finance from school and not trained as a chef and a hotel manager. These were both very worthy careers, of course, but terribly long hours and typically very lowly paid. When I retired and left the UK, it gave me a certain level of time independence because I didn't have to spend an hour or so every day commuting to work. And so it actually saves a ton of time. And then it also gives you a level of location independence because when I became an expat, I had no fixed abode. And because of that, I saved a ton of money on things like commuting expenses, having to live in a really expensive city, having to buy a bunch of expensive clothes just to go into the office or to socialise, and inevitably ending up spending a bunch of money on going out to fancy lunches or dinners and like keeping up with the Joneses. The second point is to give value and expect nothing in return. You might have heard of reciprocity and how powerful it can be. And reciprocity basically tells you to give value first. And this is a very powerful concept and it works incredibly well. But if you want to have the power of reciprocity on steroids, what you should do is give value and expect nothing in return. Let me explain. In the financial arena, most financial advisors and investment managers chase the money. My approach was a little bit different. I would give the best advice and service that I could, and in a lot of instances for free, if somebody needed it. I didn't ask for anything. I genuinely wanted to help people, and I felt privileged being in that position because of my previous poorer background. And I did. I helped a ton of people out and they did appreciate it. And over the years, people started referring me and introducing me to others, which in turn helped my business to grow. I genuinely helped others out, and good people naturally want to help you back. It's called reciprocity. Reciprocity works really well on its own, but a lot of the time, the way people do it is that they'll do something for people, say once, and then they'll kind of stare at them with puppy dog eyes, thinking, well, what are you going to do for me now? And that comes across as very disingenuous. What you should do instead is give people a ton of value and expect absolutely nothing in return. And that's exactly what I do on this YouTube channel. I give away tons of tips completely free. And it definitely feels like a real privilege to try and help other people grow, take care of their health, their wealth, and their expat sanity. I think the overriding factor is the need to be genuine and authentic. If you give value to someone and then stare at them with puppy dog eyes, that's cringeworthy. It's like buying a girl a drink and then expecting her to go home with you and get her panties off. People can smell that from a mile away and they'll know that you have bad intentions. So just don't do it. Lead with help, detach from the outcome, because ultimately goodwill compounds far faster than money ever will. And the value you give people compounds reputation. Rule number 3, go where the opportunity is. The number one predictor of how successful you're going to be as an expat is your location. It's not just me saying this. This is literal scientific fact. You can look it up if you want. It's not your gender, it's not your ethnicity, your religion, or any of that stuff. It's your zip code. Your zip code and your peer group quietly and insidiously set your calling. When you grow up around people who aren't successful, you need to leave. I can't emphasize how important this is. Get away from the negativity, naysayers, and all the BS. Immerse yourself in circles with people who are crushing it as expats. Start networking with successful expats. Just being around them changes everything. It's almost like magic. It's like osmosis. You know, they say birds of a feather flock together. They also say, if you show me your 5 closest friends, I'll tell you exactly who you are. And there's honestly a lot of truth to that. Human beings are social animals, and you cannot help but take on the characteristics of the people that you surround yourself with. If you only surround yourself with unsuccessful people, you're almost doomed to be unsuccessful yourself. Another quick point. When you try to better yourself, there will be resistance. Some people will pull you back, like crabs in a bucket. There's this idea that when one crab tries to climb out of the bucket, the others will instinctively pull it back in. It's not hatred, it's fear of change. People who are stuck will often keep you stuck with them. Others might try to cut you down, which is like tall poppy syndrome. That's when someone stands out by doing something better, aiming higher or growing, and instead of being celebrated, they're criticised or cut down for it. Success makes insecure people uncomfortable. So there is a very good chance that at least temporarily, you might have to distance yourself from the people that are holding you back. The biggest thing is just getting involved in communities of people who want to do the same thing as you. The 4th rule focuses on one thing that you're world class at. Generalists might earn a living, but specialists can earn a killing. Here's an example. Brain surgeons make around $1 million a year. General practitioners make around $150,000 a year. Why? Because brain surgeons are specialists. They're world class at one thing. So focus on one thing and grind until you're world class at it. This is the most common mistake that I see newbies make, and this is a mistake that I used to make as well. There was one expat guy I knew who had serious shiny object syndrome constantly. One moment he wanted to live in Thailand, the next the Philippines, the next was Vietnam, and then it was Colombia, etc, etc. If he actually knew what he was searching for, he would have felt contented and happy instead of in a constant flux of confusion and delusion. It's pretty easy to like a place, but it's not so easy to love somewhere until you fully understand it. Let me explain the hierarchy of confidence really quickly. First is unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. You're bad at something and you don't even know that you're bad at it. Next is conscious incompetence. You realise that you're actually quite bad at something. Then conscious competence. You're good at something and you're consciously improving it. But you do actually have to think about it a lot and put effort in order to get better. And finally, unconscious competence. You're good at something and you don't even have to think about it. With being an expat, I think I've achieved this level of unconscious competence. So I can basically see the matrix. Sometimes I tell people things and I can't even explain why they work. I just know that they will work. It's pattern recognition and it's nearly 30 years of being an expat. So I really do know what I'm doing here, but it did take me years. Another thing to keep in mind is the Dunning-Kruger effect. When you start something, your confidence is super high. You think, oh, this is going to be super easy. This new expat life is going to be way better than what I'm living now. But it's fake confidence. After a little bit, you realise the grass is not always greener on the other side. And you also realise it's going to take you a lot of time to get really good at this new life abroad. And then you hit the valley of despair. Your confidence drops way down. Then there's the long grind. You keep going, you keep learning, and eventually you become really good at being an expat. And then your confidence is actually higher than when you first ever moved abroad. But this time it's real confidence, earned confidence based on real results. Pick one destination and stick with it until unconscious competence kicks in. And you'll basically be like Neo from the Matrix. You'll be able to live it and make it look easy. But first you have to be boring and you have to grind long enough to become undeniable. That's the rule. Rule number 5 is radical open-mindedness. The best way I can describe this is when you go to one level, but you don't know how to get to the next level. What got you here won't necessarily get you there. Tony Robbins taught me years ago, you don't have business problems, you have life problems that reflect in your business. If you want to be a millionaire, you need to become the person who deserves to be a millionaire. What's in the dark needs to come into the light. If you've been doing the same thing over and over again and you feel stuck, you need to change things up. What grew your savings is not what's going to make your pension last. What you eat might keep you off the surgeon's table, but it won't keep you fit. What got you abroad isn't going to keep you abroad. This is why you need radical open-mindedness. Consider things opposite to your opinions and be open-minded. Almost everybody at some point is going to get stuck. And you're not going to get unstuck by doing the same thing over and over again. Some people move abroad, stick to one place and believe they will remain eternally happy. But the truth is, what got you there won't always keep you there. Things that were true 5 years ago about expat life or a particular country might not be true now. And things that are true now may not be true 5 years in the future. Overseas life changes and you need to accept change. You need to adapt and change because, as Darwin said, it's not the strongest who survive and thrive, it's the most adaptable. You can be wrong about many things you believe to be true, and that's fine, it's humbling. Being able to accept that and change your behaviour is what creates successful expats, as well as millionaires and billionaires. So when you get stuck, open up your mind and try something else. Keep experimenting and tinkering until you find something that works. When you find that thing that works, do more of it. A lot more of it. If something is not working over a long period of time, like a relationship for example, stop the relationship. Stop doing it. Documenting your journey is the absolute biggest cheat code, both financially and from a self-development perspective. It's kind of like keeping a diary. Pretend that you're talking to yourself from like a few months ago or even a few years ago. If you had a time machine, what would you tell your past self? What problems could you have solved? How much time, effort or money could have been saved? Document it and maybe help other people along the way. It's like critiquing yourself and writing it down so it becomes real. Rule number 7 is understand risk and reward for real. Helen Keller was blind, deaf and mute. She had a very, very tough life. She said security is mostly superstition. Avoiding danger is no safer than outright exposure. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. What she basically meant was if you try hard to avoid risk, you're actually exposing yourself to more risk. For example, when you're poor, it's hard not to be poor. This is the kind of situation I was stuck in when I was younger, and all the people that were around me were in a similar position. A lot of people just get comfortable and accept being poor, as if they just wanted to stay there. But when something happens, like a huge unexpected bill, this can ruin your complete year. You end up taking out credit cards and going into debt. By avoiding risk, you're exposing yourself to more risk. So you need to take calculated smart risks. I'm not saying gamble or buy some random crypto coin. Take smart risks that have a high probability of success. In the modern world, the consequences of failure are relatively small, let's face it. For instance, let's say you fail at being an expat after a few months. You've just wasted your time, that's it. And maybe a few $1,000s. 1,000 years ago, if you tried doing something amazing, you risked being ostracized by your tribe. If the tribe kicked you out, you were pretty much doomed to die. But in the modern world, well, first of all, probably that's not going to happen to you. But even if you were kicked out, you wouldn't die. You could easily just find another tribe. It makes zero sense to not try over and over again. If you eventually succeed as an expat, you'll be way better than 99.9% of people back home. For sure, I can guarantee that. You have to understand risk and reward, not just money. It's time, energy, passion and freedom. You're risking your time not having time to do what you love. Think of opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is an incredibly important concept. The opportunity cost of not doing something versus doing something else. Not just money, but time, passion and energy. Make frequent asymmetrical bets. Protect your downside, but seek the uncapped upside. And this is exactly what I did when I gave up the rat race and became an expat many years ago. Now, I know that 99% of people, maybe even 99.9% of people watching this are never going to meet me. And that's entirely okay. Like I said, I love to give value and accept nothing in return. I want to give at least 10 times more value than what I receive. However, if you are one of those 1% or 0.1% that would like to work directly with me or get some one-on-one coaching as an expat or a potential expat, then go ahead and become a channel member. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and share it with somebody else who may also enjoy it, because it really does help my channel get noticed. And perhaps consider becoming a channel member for exclusive discounts, early access to most of my new videos, and soon a weekly members only live stream. Thank you for watching, and as always, enjoy.